Hey, everybody who's joining. We're going to go ahead and give it another 30 seconds to let some other individuals pop in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. The Zoom camera keeps adjusting to like have my face down here, but that's all right. All right, well, I think we're right on time. As people trickle in, they can continue to join. And then we'll go ahead and get started. Of course, everyone will get a recording of this, so they'll be able to come back if they're a little late. But hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Alexa Dombrowski. I'm the head of customer success at Tracera, and I'm super thrilled to host our first ever customer-focused webinar. So thank you all for joining us today. Today, we're going to be spotlighting one of our standout customers, La-Z-Boy Inc. So an iconic brand not only known for comfort and design, but also for really building a truly transparent and scalable sustainability program. So I'm very excited to be joined by Amy Vernon and Sonali Singh of La-Z-Boy. They've both been deeply involved in the transformation of La-Z-Boy's ESG reporting journey. And I think today you're really going to walk away with some real practical insights, just all about the strategies that work. Before we dive in and introduce the panelists in a bit more detail, just a few quick notes. The session will be about 1 hour. We'll save time for audience Q&A towards the end, but feel free to drop your questions in the chat at any time. I'll probably weave in a few as we go. And then, yes, we will record this and share that with everyone after. So if you want to revisit this conversation, share it with your teams, you will definitely be receiving a follow-up email probably tomorrow with all this information. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Amy and Sonali to briefly introduce themselves and give us a quick overview of their roles. So maybe, Amy, do you want to kick us off?
Of course, sure. First of all, thank you, Alexa, and the Tracera team for having us. We're excited to participate and kind of help and lead and guide where we can. We've been on the journey for about 4 years, and we're excited to be a part of this. So I appreciate that. I'm the director of global product compliance and sustainability at La-Z-Boy. I've been with the company 5 years, 4-ish of which have been partial role in ESG and sustainability. So we've definitely grown and learned and been part of an amazing journey. And we're excited to share that today.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Sonali, and I am the Senior ESG and Sustainability Specialist with La-Z-Boy. I've been with the company for almost for 3 years now. And yeah, I started as an intern, and yeah, then I just loved the company so much that I just decided I'm not going to leave. So, and yeah, but it has been amazing. The sustainability journey that we've seen in the last 3 years, like Amy said, that it has been such an amazing experience, and we're very happy to share it with everyone today. So yeah, really looking forward to the conversation.
Great. Yeah, thank you both. Super excited to have you. So let's go ahead and dive in. So I think the first segment, we really just want to set the foundation here, right? Learn about La-Z-Boy's journey, your mission. So let's start with the big picture. Amy, could you walk us through what sparked La-Z-Boy's focus on sustainability and maybe how this journey has evolved from when you first took over to how it is today?
Yeah, of course. So several years ago, we had our, at the time, Senior Director Tim McCurry, who was leading the sustainability journey, and it was very new. At least using the term sustainability about 4 years ago was something that we knew we wanted to do. We wanted to talk more about. But truthfully, I could say 15 years. La-Z-Boy's been doing sustainability, so we just did it before sustainability was cool, is what we like to say, because it was just part of our operations, part of what we did, part of what we believed in. But we just didn't talk about it. We were very humble with the work. We just knew it was the right thing to do. So only probably, like I said, about 4 years ago, did it become a department, did it become an actual project internally with the company. So at that point, we knew that we wanted to start sharing our journey. We wanted to start talking about our goals. We wanted to, we started working on our first sustainability report. There was just a lot of work that we knew that would be good for us to be, to increase our transparency on the work that we were doing. Of course, there was a lot of, talk and requirements in ESG in the work, both from, regulatory space and just our stakeholders were interested more in what we were doing. So that's kind of how it started. And it's, like I said, the journey has been long, but it has actually been incredibly successful. It's hindsight's 2020, like they always say. So it looks, to see what we've done over the past few years has just been truly amazing. So
Yeah, absolutely. Sonali, from your perspective, what are your thoughts on sustainability from when you've joined maybe to what it is today?
Oh, I mean, I think we've had like exponential learning curve, from when we started, it was everybody was very new to the concept within the organization. We had to like tell people, like when we reached out to people about like scope 3 emissions, they're like, what is that? They had like no idea about it. So, there was like a lot of education that was, like both Amy and I, we had like a lot of those sessions where we explained the entire concept behind like scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, which are like basically like sustainability technical terms. And now, we have like people talking about, yeah, like category 4, yeah, we understand what is category 4, what, we need to provide. So we've come a very long way. So yeah, it has been amazing. Like even the impact report, we had like the first report that we had, we did not even know what to include, what not to include. So, we were just trying to talk about a lot of things. And now we are in like a 4th year of impact report, and we exactly know, what sections we want to focus on. It's just about like, the impact we are, making through our operations, and yeah, all quantitative data that we want to put in the impact report. So yeah, it has been an amazing experience, just learning on the way, and then, seeing that significant change.
Yeah, definitely. I hear that from a lot of our, excuse me, customers that, they really start with just gathering all the information to actually write the report. And then once they're really confident in their internal processes, workflows, then they could really focus on what's next. Like, how do we actually talk about the impact in our report and start acting on it? So love to see that and hear that in practice from your own organization. Amy, you did talk a little bit about how there seemed to be quite a bit of internal buy-in from sustainability. There was interest, people were interested in learning more about this. So I guess what did the alignment look like to getting all the teams across the business on board? Was there any certain challenges that maybe have came up in terms of the transition and getting one on board, that sustainability is something that we do need to talk about?
yeah, so I look back at, year one, maybe day one of when we started really trying to understand what this looked like and how, how we were going to communicate. And one of the challenges I remember is educating people, because many people in the company wanted to do the right thing, care about the environment, care about, our generations yet to come, but they didn't, like Sonali said, they didn't know what is ESG, what is scope 1, scope 2. They didn't understand the terminology. They didn't understand the roles that they played and what sustainability truly meant to the company. So to overcome that, one of the things we did very early is we started a program called Getting to Know ESG. So it was a meeting that I set up every 2 or 3 weeks. We would meet with just random different departments. It was HR, it was procurement, it was supply chain, it was legal. There'd be whoever could attend would come to these meetings, and we would just talk about, what does this mean for the company, how you can contribute to this program. And what we found out, we did educate a lot of people, because we found that that's what was needed. And it wasn't that they didn't want to engage, they didn't know how to engage. They didn't even realize some of the things they were doing were already considered sustainable, right? So that was an eye-opener for a lot of people in the company. And that's how we did gain a lot more engagement and understanding and education, was just offering, what do we know, what don't we know, and how can we contribute. And that was how we kicked it off, honestly. So that lasted for about a year. And then as we started to work on our sustainability reports, we found that we had 40 to 50 SMEs that we had to reach out to, connect with, say, hey, we need category whatever, category 1, category 2 information. And that was like, what is this? What do you need from me? Why are you asking for it? We heard that hundreds of times. So that also gave us the opportunity to educate. We could say, we need to, provide this information in our report. We're doing, we're trying to improve our transparency. Our investors are asking these questions. So that was another option and an opportunity for us to educate on a broader scale. So at first, I will say the complexities and challenges seemed overwhelming. Then you toss in regulatory requirements and things that are in the pipeline that we had to do. And should we do CDP? Should we do SBTI? All these things kind of bubbled up to the surface. And we learned that you can't eat the entire elephant. You have to take a small bite at a time. Once we realized that and we backed off on all these, the stressful part of it, we started to take one bite at a time, and we started to tackle these one by one, and it just became second nature. We just started to flow so much better, and we became so much better because of it.
Yeah, that's great. Super insightful. Love that you're kind of instilling those practices previously in the organization. And I'm sure there's so much more that you are doing to follow up with, what you've started on in the past. So that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I think a follow-up question for this, and Sonali, I'm pretty confident you'll be able to answer this. What are some of the key sustainability goals that La-Z-Boy is kind of focusing on and working towards? And how have you aligned them with your broader business objectives?
Yep. So I think the key goal that the organization is working towards is basically, achieving tangible results and like absolute reductions in our, carbon footprint, and like through projects and strategies which are like smart investments. So, we are not chasing any, random goals or targets. We want to have like those absolute reductions and tangible results that, we can say that, yes, we are making an impact out there. So, and our teams are always like, our internal stakeholders are always looking for like innovative solutions that will help them integrate, sustainability into their day-to-day operations without disrupting, any usual operations that they have. And I feel that, like Amy said, that we have like so many people within the company that want to do good. Like, in fact, the intent for this is to do good by our customers and the planet. And therefore, and in fact, like our company's ethos is sustainability and lean manufacturing. And, we want to be very smart in our business operations. It's such an integral part of our day-to-day job that our internal stakeholders like immediately identify with it, like sustainability or like lean manufacturing, and they themselves suggest ideas. Oh, this is something that we can do. We heard about this project, and what do you think about this? So it's amazing that people come to us with ideas, and they tell us that this is something that would be amazing for our business, and eventually this can be an extended function, and that can be sustainable, that can have like an impact that we can talk about. So this is so that's what the intent is there always. So we have to so that's why there's a lot of cross-functional collaboration that we have, and like the whole idea is to have those absolute reductions in our operations, and like do not go for any shortcuts. We're not absolutely looking for any shortcuts, or we're looking for like long-term results to reduce our carbon footprint.
Awesome, great. Super helpful. Amy, anything you want to add to Sonali's response there?
Yeah, I think she covered a lot of it, but I think one thing that's important to us is transparency. We've done sustainability for a very long time, but telling our story is very important to us, and we want it to be tangible, like Sonali had mentioned. I know we got caught up a lot in reporting, like, what do we have to report? When do we have to report? And it did feel, I'm sure, more so for Sonali than myself, as she'd finish one document and she'd start another one, and then she'd pull the spreadsheet and she'd have to create a new spreadsheet. And she was so caught up in that data collection that for a little while, we lost sight of why are we doing this. We were so worried about getting the numbers right, but our vision of taking care of the planet, taking care of our customers kind of get lost in translation a little bit. And that was a challenge for us. And we did take a step back recently a few months ago and say, wait, we need to focus on those tangible wins. We need to focus on actually doing right for the environment as opposed to making sure your numbers are perfectly correct and we're hitting these certain dates and reporting extra, all these different voluntary, options that we have to report. Like let's focus on doing what's right. We're a small team. You're looking at our sustainability team right now, right? So, and it's only part of my responsibility. I have a whole nother part of my job that I have to do. So Sonali's the main person. And so we want to make sure that we're focusing our time and resources and energy on doing what's right versus just reporting. So that's something that our focus, for this fiscal year and moving forward is, making tangible difference, making a tangible change. And I think the decarbonization comes along with that, right? So, our process improvements within the plant and our goals of decarbonization, it all goes hand in hand. And it's going to work out. I think we're a very positive forward path. And like I said, I give tons of credit to Sonali for keeping us on that path. So she's the core team. So
Awesome. Yeah, I want to underline the word transparency there. That is a common theme I'm constantly hearing from our current client base, obviously including you guys here. But I think the best way to really approach that is just to get your internal workflows and processes in place. That way you really can say, I'm confident in all the work that we're doing in gathering these metrics. All that boring stuff is done. Let's go into the nitty gritties. Like, how are we actually going to get and to where we want to be? How are we actually going to reach our targets? So love to hear that that's kind of the approach you needed to take to realize that, we don't want to lose sight of where we're going. We want to get those processes in place so we can really focus in and hone in on what's most important to La-Z-Boy. So thanks for going into that detail. Cool. So moving into our next segment, I do want to talk a little bit more about some of the challenges that you guys may have faced, because I'm sure a lot of our listeners want to hear, what's not unique just to them. So let's talk about overcoming some challenges, and driving some internal engagement. And I think that goes into one of the questions that we just received in the chat here. So just talking about the hard part, right? Like the implementation of sustainability as a key pillar in your organization. We know that a really massive part of sustainability is just receiving and maintaining that internal buy-in, especially in a regulatory landscape like today, especially for this space. So maybe we'll go into the question that came in from the chat, to be honest. So the question is, having a small sustainability team, have you faced any resource constraints on the way that you're on the path to your goals? And if yes, how did you work around that and where did you prioritize?
Yeah, so I'll kick it off and Sonali, you can fill in the gaps, but absolutely resource constraint is there. We have one person dedicated to sustainability and La-Z-Boy is a huge company, right? So we're global. We have several different enterprises that are part of La-Z-Boy. So it's not just La-Z-Boy brand, it's Joybird, it's Case Goods, England and Hammery, and then we have our UK division. So it's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts for one person to track. So I think that again, it comes back to stepping back and figuring out what's important and taking that small bite of the elephant. We were overwhelmed. I truly and honestly, we were overwhelmed the first year, 2 years on how to do all this with 1.5 resources or 1.5 people. It was, we thought in our minds we had to get so much done that first year. And, we had these things, they're expecting us to do this. When we realized that it wasn't going to happen overnight. This is a journey. I think it's super important for anyone listening or anyone just starting their journey. You may feel overwhelmed. You're facing a lot of headwinds. There's no doubt, and that's okay. I think take a breath and realize that it is a journey and you will get better every year. I look back at 4 years ago compared to where we are now, and we are in such a good position. We are very proud of the work that we've done. The first year, FY22, when we started collecting data, we thought we were great. Sonali's laughing because you know where I'm going. FY24, we collected data, and FY25, and we're like, oh my gosh, our FY22 data is terrible. Like, we can't use it. There's gaps everywhere, but we had to start there. And that's what's important is you started, you identify what it isn't great and you do better. And each year that we've collected data in the past 4 years, we've gotten to where we're, I'm going to say 97 to 99% accuracy. Where we look back at FY22 and we thought it was good, it was probably about 50% right, so, and again, it's okay because we know that we need to get better. We've done better. We've implemented systems and programs. Obviously, Tricera has been, our right arm for the past couple of years, helping us get to where we need to be. And I give you guys a ton of credit because you've educated us, you've supplied us with resources and consultants and, just help nonstop for the past few years. So that's been a huge help for us. But yeah, so it's a tough journey. The few years, don't get frustrated. And again, we're happy to help you. Anyone has questions, even after this webinar, don't hesitate to reach out because we've learned the lessons, some of them the hard way for sure. But we've definitely gotten better, so, because of it. So, yep.
Yeah, thank you for your response there. Sonali, as someone who's more boots on the ground in the weeds of the sustainability department at La-Z-Boy, do you have anything else you want to add to kind of the challenges of resource constraints and how you overcome them?
Yep, absolutely. So I think, like Amy said, the data collection is like one of the most difficult jobs to do when, you don't have like a lot of resources, especially for a company like La-Z-Boy, which is like so global, like have so many assets, under them. So that was like a big problem that we faced in our first and second year. And, we were like, oh my God, how do we do this? There's like so many categories, and we realized we have to collect data from like almost 40 plus contributors. So it was like very, very overwhelming. But yeah, Amy and I were like, no, we have to start somewhere. We just cannot keep just looking at these Excel sheets. They'll not populate themselves. So, we'll have to read. So yeah, we started doing that. And yeah, one thing we were both very clear was that we need to have like a very strong foundation. We are not going to take any shortcuts. We'll not just take, assumptions, etc. So what we did is like, while we were doing the reach out and, we were trying to explain to people that what is it that we need from them, we also understood, what are the data gaps. So, we did a very, very thorough, like in those 2 years, though we faced a lot of challenges, but what we did was, that made us aware of like the data gaps or the gaps that we have in our data collection process. And then we worked with our data contributors to understand from them that, whether this data would be available or not. If not, then what are the alternatives? Can we set up processes in place, at least if not for this year, at least for next year, so that we do not face this problem next year. So that was, it was a very slow process, but that helped us build a very strong foundation. So today, if we are in this very comfortable space that, the data collection process gets done within a month or so, like as compared to the first year where it took us months. So it was because that we took our time, we understood why we are facing those challenges. So like even if you do not have a lot of resources, I think the best thing would be like to reaching out to asking for help. Basically, there is a cross-functional collaboration that is, I would say, key for any sustainability team. You cannot do it alone. Like corporate sustainability cannot exist in silos. You have to reach out to people. You have to ask them. You cannot, pull out data from each and every department. You have to, have your, point of contact in different teams, make them understand that, why is it important? Why is it that you're looking for a particular metric? How can you support them in getting that information, or how they can support you? So there has to people have to have those conversations. You have to reach out to the right resources, identify that. So do your homework within your own company, understand that who will be able to help you, and start early. Like do not wait for the reporting season to start. When you're not collecting the data, that is when you should be preparing for data collection. That's what Amy and I do. Like once we are done with data collection, we're like, okay, let's start working for the next fiscal year. We now know this is the problem. This is the problem that we face this fiscal year. So how do we address it for the next fiscal year? Let's set up a meeting with that department. Let's tell them that, this is what the problem was when you submitted the data. How do we address this? So these are some of the things that helped us and, and helped us make that progress over the years. So the initial years were very overwhelming. We did not have like a lot of data because people did not know how they are supposed to provide that data, how they are supposed to extract those reports from our internal systems. The data is there. Like, I think every company has the data. It's just that you need to know from where to pull out that information. So that's the challenge that people face. And I think most of the people, they wait for the reporting season to start, and then there's a time crunch. So that's why, then people are like, okay, if not this, then we'll use spend data or some other alternative and, not the actual primary data. So that's what I say. That's a learning that both Amy and I had, that, when you're not collecting the data, that is when you're working on setting up processes in place. So yeah, so that's what my biggest learning has been, that, do very thorough gap analysis, and then, work with different internal teams, that how you can fill those gaps, and then implement processes in place where, that help you extract the data for the next fiscal year. And it is a continuous improvement process. You can never say that, now this is done, this is the best that you can do. You can always improve. You can, look for better data. Like currently we're working on like mass-based analysis. We are trying to get like as much as mass-based emissions from all our categories. So we are always looking for ways to, improve our data collection process. So
Great. Yeah, no, that's very, very insightful. Yeah, I think building the relationships is so crucial, because you're right. Like, corporate sustainability is not a siloed department at all, right? It's very cross collaborative. You have to make sure you're engaging with the right people and really motivate them to be like, oh, I get to do this again this year. Great. So I think the educational piece is a very big part of making sure that you have that relationship built with those appropriate departments. So thank you so much for going through that. So I did mention a little bit earlier today about internal buy-in, and I know that that's something that I'm hearing a lot from our customers, just across the sustainability space in general. But I guess a question for you is, how have you communicated in the past, or still communicate today, the why behind sustainability internally? And maybe this is more with your C-suite, your board, or anyone who maybe is a little bit more drawn to be, or a little bit more hesitant to be super involved in the sustainability realm. So how do you kind of approach any challenges that come up with that today?
Yeah, I think initially it was stakeholder education was another really big challenge for us, because people are looking at the bottom line, right? The finance team, that's the bottom line. The CEO, it's the bottom line, So sustainability wasn't something that they saw impacting the bottom line at the time. And so getting over that hump was incredibly challenging. As I mentioned before, at a little bit of the lower level, we started that getting to know ESG program. So we had directors and managers involved in that to help educate them. The reporting process was definitely a piece where we had to engage C-suite more. It gave us the opportunity to educate and explain to them what was needed, why it was needed, and they did get more involved. The governance piece is a crucial part of that, which lies within our C-suite. So that was helpful in a way where we had to force a little bit of education on them, because we had to report about it. So that those requirements for the report and SASB and TCFD, those things that helped us, because we needed to do it. But part of it too was, at the time, our CFO, Bob Lucian, was very much engaged and helpful in the partnership with your team. And that was also another piece that was imperative for us, because he was aware of the need. He was engaged very much on that side. So he was definitely the voice for us in the C-suite level. It's unfortunate he's retired now, so we're starting a little bit over again in that space, but we're okay with it, because I think Sonali and I have grown enough in this space that we can share that. Recently we had I received a email, and the only reason I have to share this, because it stuck with me, because the request was about some meetings that had to be set up, and the first question was will the impact report be ready? And to me, that was like, we'd finally reached the point we need to, because the first most important piece of those conversations was, will the impact report be ready? So we went 4 years ago from what is an impact report to now that's the most important key to these C-suite meetings. So that made me very happy to say, okay, now we've reached the pinnacle at this point of our reporting. So, yeah, so I think that just, the other piece of it too, I would say, was our investors. We had investors asking a lot about where we are in our sustainability journey. Are we doing this? Are we doing that? So that was key, because if we are getting, requests from our investors, that means it's important. So they helped us a lot with that educational piece, and so, and then too, we report to the board at least annually, a very detailed report on our sustainability journey. So then that's also additional engagement that we have in education with the C-suite and with the board members to have those conversations and what's important. So it's just part of that journey. We've come so far. 5 years ago, we weren't doing that report at all. So that's what's happened in the past 4 years, is these things have become more important, and they're on the radar. And they'll continue to be because of, the efforts and the wins that we've had the past 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to bounce off that, we did get a question similar to kind of what you touched on, but maybe if you want to provide a little bit more color on some specific points here. But the question is, how did you educate internal stakeholders on sustainability? So I know you touched on that a little bit, but what is the cadence, or what types of workshops specifically did you host, and how was that received across the board? So is there anything that you would want to add to touch on maybe like the cadence of some of those workshops that you kind of talked about?
I think, and Snella, you can add to this, but I think part of it at the time, when it was still like a new term and a new department, we had engagement from he became the VP of sustainability at the time, but we had engagement with Tim McCurry. So he was a level up for us to have those communications and bring it to the forefront more often. But we would get in front of C-suite, we would get in front of during meetings and discuss it as much as possible. We had the opportunity to have webinars in the past that we engaged in. So at any point we would talk about it on LinkedIn. So I think it was just a gradual, slow but sure process to keep throwing out there what we were working on and why it was important. And then, of course, when California puts their regulations out there, and when these things, we need to report in certain states or whatever it is, that of course becomes a very important piece of the puzzle, and that we took those as opportunities. I mean, we'd done so much work in the past 4 years that when California implemented these regulations, we were prepared. It was probably one of the easiest things we did to say, yeah, we can, we had C-suite going, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? And like, we're good. We have one piece of the puzzle we have to put in, and we're ready, and that was a very proud moment for us as well, is that we'd worked our tails off, not realizing how important it was going to be in that space in California. And, here we are ready to, whenever a decision is finally made in California, and SEC too. So we were prepared for that, even though it's been, pulled back, we were prepared for both. So when we received those messages to say, what are we going to do? We're like, we're set, we're fine, we'll be okay, so, but yeah, so I think it's just taking the opportunities to talk about it as much as possible. We have Lazy Boy Live, which is something that we promote internally. There's been opportunities there for us to plug the impact report. We try to focus on our team members, internal team members in that report, to give them accolades to the work that they're doing. And then that also encourages them to go read about it and say, oh yeah, look at me, here's a picture of me, or here's a quote that I said, so we want to make sure they're getting the credit for the work they're doing as well. And it does help engage. So yeah, just take any opportunity and every opportunity to plug the work that you're doing. We've always said we're Midwest humble, which is why for 15 years we did it and we didn't talk about it. So it's been a gradual change for us to go public with it. But most companies are probably already doing sustainable work. It's just not, classified as sustainable work. I mean, if you've done water reduction, if you've done, if you have a good waste program implemented, you're already being sustainable. So those are the things you want to focus on.
Great. Yeah, that was great. Perfect. So a little bit more of a question that I'm hearing across the board. And I do want to bring this up just because I think it's going to be really interesting to hear your response here. But how do you currently link your sustainability efforts to business performance, ROI, long-term value creation? Is there any specific things that you're focusing on, or what are some activities that you're taking to make that happen within your org?
Sonali, do you want to take this one?
Sure. Yeah. So like I said, what we are doing is again like focusing on like tangible results. So our main focus is to integrate sustainability into our day-to-day operations. So we're not looking at, sustainability as like a separate function, but what we are doing, in our regular operations, how we can integrate sustainability directly into it. We're looking for, like, for example, we're looking for more sustainable materials that get incorporated into our products, or like waste management processes, like lean manufacturing, as I mentioned, is such an integral part to our operations. So, because lean manufacturing ultimately affects the bottom line of the business, right? You are being very resource efficient, you're managing your waste properly, you're not, spending any extra dollars for disposing of that waste. So these are the things that, that is how we link it to our ROI, that, how do we integrate sustainability into our regular operations without, disrupting the usual line of business that we have. So that's how we say that, sustainability will not cost you anything in the long run, but ultimately will save you dollars. So that's the approach that, both Amy and I have adopted. Like, even when I said we reach out to different teams when we are proposing a sustainable project or like an intervention in their regular day jobs, that's how we approach them, that this is something that will not cost you anything additional, but eventually, even if you do not see any immediate results, but in the long run, this is save you some money, probably 5 years down the line. That's when you see ROI, and that's how that immediately resonates with teams internally, because like I said, they want to do good by our customers and by the planet. So it's not as if we have to make a case internally for this, but ultimately we have to make sure that it is good for our like overall stakeholders, our shareholders, and it impacts positively the bottom line of the business. So that's how we basically make that connection to them. And again, like, sustainability is a smart business strategy. It's not as if something that will cost additional money to the company to do. In the long run, it will give return. So it's not that difficult for both Amy and me to make that business case to different teams or our C-suite. So yeah, so that's the approach that we adopt. We always look for these smart strategies that will help us, get the money back that we are putting upfront, and more or less, like most of the times, I think almost all the time, we can prove that, financial case for sustainability projects.
Yeah,
Great,
I think.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, Amy, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to add to that. One of the things we've learned recently, or one of the projects, I guess, is piloting. So we've been able to communicate and work with a couple different companies to do pilot programs. So it's really tough for our financial team, or anybody actually, to invest millions of dollars into a project when you don't know what that ROI is going to be. So we found some partners who are willing to do pilots to implement, on a much smaller scale to prove ROI before we invest more, just to make sure that, it's a collaborative effort. There's going to be emissions reduction, there's going to be cost savings, those kind of things. So that's one area. And then more specifically too, about 2 years ago, we implemented a waste and recycling program that ended up having, excellent ROI for us. And it took a little bit to get some buy-in from all the different departments. So we started a little bit smaller scale with some of our bigger facilities. And then we have continued to increase the locations, and we've seen excellent results from that as well. So there's definitely been a cost savings, definitely emissions reduction, and an increase in recycled materials. So yeah, so it's really just taking the time to find programs, collaborate with partners across the United States to say, what do you offer? How is it going to help us? How is it going to help the environment? But yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you both. That's very helpful. I know being able to tie like financial data points to a lot of this to really inspire your leadership teams, your C-suite, can always be a challenge. So going into some of the examples of what your team does is very useful, I think. Anastasia, it might be worth popping our community link in the chat. So we also do have a community group at Tracera where we get together different industry experts, sustainability peers, and you guys can all talk about these things that you're working on and ask any questions. So we'll have Anastasia pop that in the chat, but I think it's another great place to start if you don't know where to start for how to tie any of this information to your ROI or to anything related to financial pieces within your organization. So that's a great place to talk through with peers and really understand like what's a good approach I could start with. Great. One last question in the challenges realm that kind of has come up on my mind is about audit readiness and just your reporting quality, right? So I guess, how does having traceability and methodology transparency help your team defend your numbers? Was audit readiness ever a concern? And how do you guys keep yourself ahead of the game there from an audit perspective?
Yeah, so the first 2 years that we really focused on data collection, preparing for reporting, we didn't do anything with audits because we knew there were gaps. We knew we were doing the best we could with the tools that we had available. But as California regulations, kind of hit the horizon, and we knew there was going to be potentially some requirements for that, we decided to take our fiscal year 24 data and audit it. So we knew that that was our 3rd year of collecting data. We knew that we were going to be pretty good, or we should be pretty good by then, and it would be good for us to do some auditing. So instead of hiring a third party for our first year, we just did an audit readiness assessment internally with our own internal audit team. And we actually just completed that. So we spent the last couple of months going through that and them auditing and reaching out to our some of our partners and understanding how we collect data and where it's all stored. And so that was an amazing learnings for us, because it's going to, again, give us another method to ensure that the data we have is accurate, concise. So, and again, we're just more prepared for California, honestly. So, but yeah, I definitely think that, my personal opinion, don't waste your time auditing your first or second year because there's just so many things that you don't get right. Like, genuinely, you're not going to get it all right those first few years, and that's okay. Like, we learned that we're not, it's okay. Put forth your best effort, and learn from what you didn't get right. Find those gaps, and so even in our 3rd and 4th year, our team was able to identify some gaps, and they weren't big, which was something, again, we were super proud of. But they're like, if as you do this, here's the things to look for, here's how to close the gaps. And so it's just tightened up our processes. And so we're super excited to take on a third party audit for this next year's data, because we feel very confident in where we are with our transparency and the credible work that's been done the past few years of getting it right. So yeah, so I think that it's definitely something, if you have an audit team, do it internally first. We've audited at a very high level our report for the last couple of years, and now our scope work is scope 1 and 2 work's been audited internally now. So, but yeah, definitely encourage it, but don't get discouraged with the results. That's the whole purpose of doing an audit is to find out, to get better, to find out where you can improve. So.
Great. Yeah. Sonali, I definitely want to hear your thoughts on this, as I'm sure you were very plugged in on the internal audit work that was going on. So anything that you would like to add?
Yeah. So I think Amy covered most of it. So yeah, like she said, even like for the first few years when we were not doing the internal audit, we were doing an internal assurance process with with the team. And what they did was basically making sure that the data that was going into the impact report, we had like it was verified. We had like supporting documents to verify that the numbers that we are reporting are correct. If like somebody comes back and questions them, we can provide the correct documentation for that. So that actually helped us build the process, so that basically it helped us with the internal audit step that we did this year. And eventually that will help us with a third-party audit that we'll be doing for our California disclosures. So we started small. So again, like Amy said, that you have to start somewhere. Just do not wait for things to be perfect. Do not wait for collecting everything, and then because you'll never understand the gaps unless and until you start doing the process. You will not understand what is it that you're lacking in your process. You'll not be able to correct that eventually when the time comes for you to report it to the regulators. So that's why, so that internal assurance process that we started doing with our impact report, that was a huge learning. The first year we did, we were completely lost. They're like, okay, how did you report this number? Like, yeah, I have this email. They're like, no, that's not going to work. We need a report. They're like, oh, okay. Then you go back to the contributor. Then like, okay, I need the report from where do you pull out this information. So that's how we started setting up the process. Next year it was better. And then like, you can, start collecting invoices for like the different scope 1, scope 2 numbers that you have, because they come from utilities, etc. So we started doing that, and now we are like our contributors themselves, like when they're entering the data in the platforms that we have, they've started uploading the invoices as well. So we have like a very standardized process for that. And eventually that helped with the internal audit process. Like Amy said, when we got the internal audit process done, we had like very few gaps that, we need to work on. So we are very proud of that process. And eventually we feel very confident now getting a third-party audit for our, emissions data.
Great. Yeah, no, that's great. I know a lot of our other customers as well have done an audit readiness assessment. I think that's a really great first step. So glad to hear that you kind of are on the same wavelength there and feel highly prepared for any external audit that's going to come your way. In the realm of the impact report that you guys put out, we do have a question in the chat. Maybe we can quickly touch on before we move on. But can you just elaborate a little bit more on your impact report, which I imagine is really closely aligned to your like sustainability report, and how you leverage them internally and maybe externally as well?
Yes, Nelly, go ahead.
So our impact report, like I said, it has also evolved over the course of 3 or 4 years that we have been putting it out there. Initially, we did not know, what to include, what not to include. We were talking about so many things. It was 60 pages long. And then, eventually we've started cutting down the pages, and we're just talking about the, exact impact that we are making through our operations. And what we do is, we use it to educate our investors about, the amazing things that we are doing internally, and also educate our employees, because, a lot of employees are very invested in, how we are helping the environment through our operations. So we use this as an opportunity to let our employees know that, whatever work they are doing, it's actually helping the environment, our community, in some way or the other. And that, and we've received so much of positive feedback from employees. They're like, oh, we did not know that, this is happening, in our Mexico plans or in our Thailand plans, or, our UK team is doing some amazing work. So, and apart from that, we also do a lot of amazing community work. So again, our impact report becomes an opportunity for us to talk about that as well, because, Lazy Boy Foundation that we have, that does, throughout the year, we are doing, volunteer activities, etc. And that helps us, keep everybody informed. And like, in case you missed out this year, next year, people come and say that, oh my God, I want to participate in this. And this is something that, I would like to do. And similarly, this also encourages cross-functional collaboration, like I was talking about. When people read about like different projects that are going on in like a particular plant, like the pilot projects we're talking about, we have like different teams coming up to us. It's like, okay, we are also interested, if you want to scale up, then we would like to participate in it, count us in for like the next phase of the project. And, so that's how we leverage it. It's about creating education internally and externally. So our investors, read about it, and they also have like ideas, or like a board of directors, they have ideas. They can say that this is something that, our companies are doing. So you can also, talk about this, or you can, do this for the next phase of, our operations or your pilot projects. So yeah, so that's what we use it for like creating that awareness around the amazing work that we're doing.
Great. Yeah, thanks for going into that. So we have about 12 minutes left. So moving on to our last segment, which is really around lessons learned, your current progress, and what everyone else can take away from this webinar. So I think looking back over the last 12, 18 months, think about where Lazy Boy stands today compared to where you started. What progress are you most proud of? And what are some of your biggest learnings that you may have come across?
So I think there's a lot. There's a lot that's changed. We're now, paying more attention. One example would be as we're looking to build or invest in new properties. One of the first questions is from a renewable energy standpoint, what can we do? Is solar panels an option? There's LED lights is a given, so these things 4 years ago, we weren't even talking about it. We might have been putting up a building or renting a space, and the building was what it was, it was going in however they chose to do it. But so I think that's huge for us to say, is this a state that can gain from solar energy, so those are before the building's even being planned out, these questions are being asked. So that's important. We're also really focused on certifying more materials. So whether it's things like VOC testing for Green Guard certification for better environmental health and consumer health, or if it's FSC wood, or there's just a whole different perspective on what our supply chain is coming to us and saying, do we need this or should we do that? So there's just more and more conversation about what they can do to help in that space. Another one that is interesting for us is we have suppliers now coming to us. So the first few years we were, pounding on the door saying, hey, what are you guys working on? And how can you, help us? But now we have suppliers pounding on our door saying, we've read your report, we see what you're doing, let's partner, which is a big deal. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity out there in our packaging materials and our, the poly that goes into our product. Like, what are they doing from a sustainability space that we can kind of pat each other's backs and say, we're working with this company because of their efforts, and they're saying we're selling to this company because we support what they're doing from a sustainability perspective. So those conversations are happening, and they weren't happening 4 years ago. Our fourth year of an impact report that is huge. When the first year we took on writing an impact report, it was terrifying. We had no idea what we were going to talk about, why we needed to talk about it. And now it's just like, yeah, we have this. It's flowing so much smoother this year. And I just think that, I could go on and on about all the wins. That first year, you didn't know if you were going to get a single win. This year, it just feels like it's all wins, so it's been an amazing journey. Huge learning curve. Again, that email when they say, is the impact report going to be ready? We're like, yeah, another win, so it seems like we've just come a long way, and 4 years might seem like a long time to people who haven't started this journey yet, but it goes by fast. And if you just dig in and just focus, take one step at a time, one bite of the elephant at a time, you'll look back in 4 years and you'll be shocked at how much you can do. So.
Amazing. Yeah, I would love to get your perspective, Sonali, as well, on how you think everything has gone. What are some of the moments you're most proud of, and what were some of the biggest learnings that you may have taken away from this journey so far?
Yeah, I think things that both Amy and I are very proud of is that, how we have been able to get everybody on board with like the sustainability reporting process. Now, like I said, initially we were just telling people that what is scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, and like people like, yeah, I know I'm supposed to submit data for category 1 and 2. I've started preparing for it. Yeah, I understand the template. So it is amazing. It just like now we are done with like a data collection process, within a month. And initially it just, it seemed like, we'll never reach the end of the tunnel when we were doing the data collection for scope 3 especially. So that's something that we are very, very proud of, that, we have like standardized the process. People now understand that, why is it important? They have set up their internal processes within their department to collect the data to provide to us. If they're not able to provide something, they immediately let us know. And then, we reach out to like experts like Trocera to, check with them that what is it that, we can provide as an alternative if this particular metric is not available with the team for this year, for whatever reason. So that's that proactive approach, or the proactive engagement that we have been able to achieve within our teams internally. That's something that we feel is a huge win, because now everybody's on board. And again, like Amy said, that we have like suppliers coming, like our external and internal stakeholders are now very invested in sustainability opportunities. So like if they come across any project that, somebody talks to them or some vendor reaches out to them, they'll immediately let us know that this is something that they're talking about. Do you think this is, worth exploring? Would you be interested? We are happy to support you if you feel that this is of value. So these things like this that just, make our heart smile, that, oh my God, we have come such a long way from like people not knowing what sustainability, what corporate sustainability is. And now, people just telling us that, this is a project that we feel would be interesting, and let us know if you are, on board as well. And then we can do a pilot with them. So things like this, I feel are like a dream come true for any sustainability team. And again, the biggest learning, again, I said, you do not wait for things to be perfect. And like slow does not mean no progress. Initially, both Amy and I, we were like very worried, oh my God, we are moving so slow. I do not know, if things will ever progress at the rate which we are going. But then there was this, exponential jump that we saw that, oh my God, and by the third year, things were just falling into place, all the pieces of the puzzle were just fitting in, and things were moving so smooth. And like now for this fiscal year, it was such a smooth process, like even with data collection, our impact report, like we have like the right partners for everything. So it has been amazing. So again, you have to start somewhere to understand what challenges are internally, what can be fixed. And yeah, and again, like cross-functional collaboration is something that, we vouch for. You have to find the right partners within the team, and everybody is ready to support if they know how they can support you, how they can help you. People do reach out to you if they understand, what is your exact requirement. So be very, very clear in your communications that, how they can help you. Do not be vague. Do not just say that, I need this data. Work out the, right metric, the right process, the right cadence that, this is something that I need monthly, or, every 6 months, every year, whatever it is, set the cadence, whatever works for them. You have to ensure that, sustainability becomes like an extended function, like not their full-time job. It's not their full-time job. So you have to, provide that comfort to them as well. So, yeah.
Great. Yeah, no, that's a really great response from both of you. So thank you so much for providing a little bit more of a guidance and advice in terms of like what is normal to expect and how we can go from there. One final question that popped in, and then we'll wrap things up, is I know you touched on this a little bit, but how are you handling the regulatory landscape within your own program? So it sounds like you're always a little bit ahead of the curve. You're prepared before the regulation is really even, a thing yet. So I guess how are you, what best practices would you kind of like want an organization to implement to stay ahead of the curve here?
Yeah, I think expect the unexpected is the first thing that comes to mind, because as much as we think we're prepared, something's always going to change. I think if you are doing your due diligence to just do what is right, you're reporting, you're trying to be more transparent each year, read the regulations as they come up. I mean, Google is your friend when it comes to knowing what's going on in California and SEC and Minnesota, Colorado. There's lots of state activity right now. Just try to stay up on it and be prepared, because for the most part, as these states are implementing regulation, they also know it's a journey, and they want you to put your best foot forward. They want you to report. They know it's not going to be perfect. These things are not going to be enforced to the point where you're going to be fined and worse. The first year or two that you submit data, it will get better, but just keep your eye on the ball. I mean, I don't even think a crystal ball at this point would be helpful. So just put your best foot forward and do your due diligence, and just expect it to change. Don't prepare for one thing, one regulation so hard that you're missing up what else is going on, because there is other state activity. California is of course leading, but there is other activity going on at the state level. So, and again, I'm happy to talk if people have additional questions. Absolutely, run a bumpy road for a few years and it's finally starting to smooth out. I was kind of chuckling when Sonali was talking earlier because we relied on comic relief a lot because we would have lost our sanity a long time ago, and we always used to say so close yet so far away because it felt good for a minute and then you'd hit a roadblock, you know. So that was kind of our comic relief for a long time, but it's amazing how much better it gets and how it will smooth out. So yeah, so
Great. Yeah, well, thank you for your openness and willing to kind of receive any other questions that come in. I just wanted to thank you both so much for sharing your experience and insight. We're at about time. Want to make sure everyone can make their next meeting. But it's been incredibly helpful and inspiring. So for anyone tuning in, if this has sparked ideas or you'd like to explore anything else, if you have any other questions, like please let anyone on this call know. I think we're all willing to have a chat with you. Again, you'll hear from us with the recording, but hope to see you at the next Tracera webinar. And thank you all again for joining. Have a good day.
thank you, Alexa.
Thank you guys. Bye.